All right. Welcome everyone. Glad to have you joining us here, either in person live, for many of those who were going to be watching the recording afterwards. You'll get some really great information and hopefully some good inspiration today. Before we dive in and start, I always like to invite everyone to take a moment to get grounded, get centered, and to be here, to be present. So if you want, I invite you to, you can take a soft gaze or close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Just relax your shoulders, maybe roll out your neck a little bit and take a few deep breaths. So breathing in, and as you exhale, completely soften. Feel your shoulders release, maybe even sink a little deeper into your chair. Another deep breath in, breathing in. Selling out any distraction, any to-dos, like overwhelm, anything that's coming up or frustrations from the day, just kind of let that energy melt away. And two more deep breaths, breathing in, feeling your rib cage expand. I'm just affirming vitality, energy, possibility, inspiration as a result of being here either directly during this time or following. You get to have a breakthrough, a next level health upgrade, because you've carved out the space and this time to be here. And go ahead and release, let that soak into your cells, absorb in all of that goodness. And one more deep breath in, breathing in presence, energy, and exhale, let that soak into yourself. All right, coming together. I like to rub my hands back and forth. When you do this, you activate both the right and the left hemispheres of the brain. So it's kind of bringing us all on board today and being fully present. So for those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Amanda Hinman. I'm the founder of the Thyroid Hormone Solution Program, best-selling book and program, and founder of Hinman Holistic Health. And I'm excited to be here with my friend Sharla today. Sharla, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, welcome. I'm so excited you guys are here. And those of you watching the recording, I'm glad you're making the time to watch it. I'm Sharla Mandare. I host a podcast called Mom Tabulous, all about motherhood and life. And I am a personal trainer, group fitness instructor. I have been working with the female body for 30 years in various aspects, coming from the world of gymnastics and coaching and teaching dance to fitness, pre and postnatal fitness, to now working with women in menopause. And I have two holistic health coach certifications, worked with women so holistically and on our bodies. And I'm excited to be here. This will be fun. This is gonna be a great conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Because I feel like we can all relate, right? Right, Shirley?
Yeah.
It's like this is a season of life where things start to change in our bodies. It's a little bit different than where it used to be. We call this the kind of catchphrase of this training was the 7 traps of menopause, and that's a real thing. I think that's for so long women were kind of like poo-pooed and like brushed to the side of like it's just the way it is. Like deal with it, and that's how life is after a certain age. But I want to just kind of create a new narrative and put a new expectation around this season in our life, and how it really can, yes, there are changes that take place in the body, but this really can be an opportunity to become more connected with and more in tune with our bodies and work in collaboration with our bodies. But let's be honest, that may not be where you're feeling or where things have been to date. So I want to just ask our, viewers and those of you who are here live, if you can put into the chat, just share with us, like type into the chat, what's the number one thing? If there were one thing, if you could wave a realistic magic wand and you could change one symptom or one unwanted, undesirable health experience, what is it that you would want to shift? Please. So go ahead and share in the chat. Maybe it's bloated, maybe it's feeling moody, maybe it's itchy skin. These are all the 7 joys of menopause, or I should say of hormonal change. Um, so what's coming up? I see, yes, definitely seeing the mood swings for sure. And you can put it to everyone, or you can just, I know some of them just came to me. Bloated, that's another one. Yes, definitely. Fatigue. Yes, absolutely, Jennifer. That's very common as well. So heartburn. Heartburn is that's it's funny because sometimes we don't think about how indigestion and heartburn can change during menopause. So yeah, we're all in good company, right? We've all been there. We all understand that. So I want to invite you to think about first and foremost, if you're feeling any of these things, nothing is wrong with you and you are not alone and you're here, right? You're taking this proactive approach. I mean, it reminds me of a client I worked with. Her name was Kathy, and she literally came to me and she's like, I just feel like my body has been taken captive because I'm not sleeping at night. I can fall asleep okay, but then I usually wake up around 2 a.m. with my mind racing. I have to wake up to go to pee, and then my mind's racing, and I can't fall back asleep. So I'm just tossing and turning all night long. Then during the day at about 3 p.m., I hit the afternoon crash, and my energy is just totally tanked. I have no bandwidth and no margin. So I'm like snapping at my daughter and just getting in these bickering arguments. So I feel really bitchy all the time. She's like, I used to work out with a trainer for years and nothing's changed with still going to my personal training twice a week, but yet I feel like my skin is flabby, my body is not retaining muscle in the same way. And overall, it's just not fun to have this belly around my waist. My pants are tight and I have this like midsection that's just creeping in. So if you're experiencing any of that, perhaps you're like Kathy. And I want you to know that this too is something that doesn't have to be permanent. Sharla and I are going to be sharing some of the tools and the strategies and the perspectives of understanding what's happening in our body and how we can be proactive more so. So, Sharla, do you want to jump in a little bit with like kind of our menopause checklist to see if, you know, you can relate to any of these symptoms?
Yeah. Let me pull up the
Hmm.
book. Do you want to share it or
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I didn't share.
like
We have
I
this,
know I've got it.
we've got this handy dandy little workbook
Yes.
um, for you. So that you can open up the workbook, you can download it, you can type right in there. This is a way to kind of think through some of the things that we're going to be teaching tonight and take notes and use this for your advantage. So yeah, on page 3 of this workbook is our menopause symptom checklist. So you
Yes.
can see if you have any of these symptoms kind of coming up in your life.
And this is just, I want to say, the tip of the iceberg. There are random things that, we go, oh my gosh, that could be due to menopause. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. But if you like, one of the things that, we hear about is the skin starts to change, right? Not only like do we get the fine lines and the wrinkles, but we get a little dry, we get itchy skin, or like some like eczema or something starts to show up that you didn't have before. And there's no rhyme or reason. Diet hasn't changed. You're taking showers in the same water and all of that. So, we can reduce or menopause reduces the collagen production, estrogen levels decline, and all of the, and then, we're going to talk about supplements, but nutrient deficiencies like the omega-3s and vitamin D can also worsen that. So that's one of the things. So kind of maybe put in the chat, give like a thumbs up or a thumbs down or one of the
Yeah,
two
right.
if you've been experiencing that. And then the other, I kind of think of these, we were talking about like the 7 dwarves, right? Like, so the 7 symptoms, So one of the other ones is bitchy. We have itchy, we have bitchy, mood swings and irritability. This is definitely something I noticed more of for myself. So again, progesterone and estrogen kind of go hand in hand. As that drops, anxiety starts to increase. And then that can manifest in different ways that our moods show up. So estrogen fluctuates, our blood sugar changes, the way that our blood sugar regulates itself changes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit when we get into the nutrition. But obviously, the lower the blood sugar is, the crankier we get, right? We get hangry, cranky, all of that. So give a thumbs up or down if you've been experiencing that. If you can relate to that, like me, that would be my number one thing, was like, I have got to get my moods under control. So then we have sleepy. Amanda talked about being tired and not sleeping as well. The number one thing I hear from women about sleep is like, I can pass out on the couch so easily and then I move into my bed and it's like wide awake, right? So again, that comes from our thyroid, cortisol imbalances. We're going to talk about lowering cortisol levels. And again, progesterone, our friend. So
Mhm.
I don't know if any of you, like me, I was on the birth control pill for a long time. And when I went off of it, obviously to have kids, I noticed a big difference in like how I was feeling. I think that really just regulates estrogen and progesterone, right? It's birth control pill. And one of the things, if you go in to talk to your doctor about possibly hormone replacement therapy, or now they call it menopause hormone therapy, the first thing they might say is, let's put you on the birth control pill. And I don't know about you, but I'm 48. My husband's had a vasectomy. I don't need to be on the pill. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
a choice. So we talked about other things to do, but that will be the first thing that a doctor says to you. And it's good to be places like this to educate yourself to go, I know there are alternatives to that we don't need to do that right now if you wanted to try something else. That can also help. Progesterone helps with your sleep so much.
Yeah.
I think the
And
next
I will say one comment with that is for some women, if you have tried and experimented with progesterone, a lot of women will have like a topical cream or different types of progesterone. Specifically with sleep, oral progesterone has a different effect through the absorption. So typically oral progesterone is more impactful to improve sleep than like a topical cream or other forms of progesterone. So something to keep in mind, because I've had some women, come to me, want to work with me and have some help. And they're like, oh, well, I've tried progesterone and it never worked. And they were using a topical cream, which has different, ways of supporting and helping to balance estrogen, but it doesn't necessarily have the same power or potency with helping with sleep as oral progesterone can. So sometimes it's like knowing the types or the formats which would work best for your specific symptom profile. Yes, and then maybe you can relate to any of these. So we had itchy, bitchy, sleepy. Now, what about sweaty, hot flashes, right? Night sweats. We wake up in the middle of the night and you just like, oh my gosh, I felt like someone just like poured a bucket of water for me. What the heck happened? You feel like your body's internal thermostat is broken. Has anyone related ever had this? I mean, I remember actually the first time I would have these is during breastfeeding after my kids, because similar fluctuations in hormones happen after or during pregnancy and after pregnancy, but it can feel like that again. And this, again, your hypothalamus is located in the brain. We're going to be talking about that a little bit further on in the training, but that is really like your body's thermostat. It's getting a sense and a kind of a checking in the internal environment of your body. And this becomes more sensitive when estrogen starts to decline. So as we stop ovulating as consistently or altogether, estrogen levels drop and then our hypothalamus can become more sensitive. And this is why this happens. Adrenal fatigue can also contribute to unpredictable temperature swings. When we don't have that steady, consistent level of cortisol, that can influence our blood sugar. We're going to talking about blood sugar quite a bit, because insulin and blood sugar control is actually, I think, one of the single biggest opportunities. And that's why I like to think about this hormonal transition, this phase of life, as actually a huge invitation for enhanced personal ownership in our own health journey. Part of the reason is because of our relationship with insulin, and blood sugar is regulated by the hormone insulin. So when we have insulin swings or blood sugar crashes, this can have a big influence on night sweats, right? Waking up feeling our hot flashes, waking up and having that like temperature change rapidly. But insulin in general correlates and is controlling our metabolic function in the body. And when you literally think about 90% of all cause morbidity, when we're talking about whether it be Alzheimer's, whether it be cardiovascular disease, whether it be cancer, whether it be autoimmune conditions, 90% of all cause morbidity, if you go back upstream and look at the root cause, it is some type of metabolic dysfunction. What that means is our cells are not effectively taking energy from food and being able to convert it into a unit of human energy at a cellular level to do all of the functions that the cell is designed to do. As soon as that function starts to break down in the body, that's when we get things like erectile dysfunction at its core is a metabolic problem. Infertility at its core is usually a metabolic problem, PCOS, right? Alzheimer's at its core is a metabolic problem. The cells in the brain are not producing energy, so they can't do their job. So it's really fascinating to look at the science now, how insulin as a hormone and blood sugar management is so powerful for us to start to learn about and start to be informed about how we're supporting our bodies. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but one of the other symptoms is bloated. Like, who can relate to feeling bloated where you suddenly feel like I have this belly, just like my client Kathy had before, and digestive issues, or it seems like you're constipated, like things aren't moving and flowing as smoothly as they used to. This can be because of, again, lower estrogen that slows our digestive kind of processing speed, if you will. Things kind of stick around in your colon longer than they used to. Gut dysbiosis or imbalance of the microbiome, things that are making it harder for your body to properly like digest and break down food. It could also be because of cortisol and insulin resistance, again, going back to the insulin factor. So that could be 1 foot out from the blink. Jennifer, I'm just seeing your note. Yeah, definitely. Where you're like waking up sweating, like 1 foot out, I'm like, I need to keep that, right? Another symptom is forgetfulness, where we feel like we have brain fog, can't remember, like I walked into this room, wait, what was I doing again? Trouble focusing, or struggling to recall simple things. That feels like a word is like right at the tip of your tongue, but you can't think of the word, or kind of just getting, caught up in conversation or memories, things like that. Again, estrogen plays a role in cognitive function. It also plays a role in just helping us to be focused and clear. Testosterone is another sex hormone that gives us our kind of sharpness and speed of processing. Blood sugar dysregulation can also cause concentration issues where it's hard to maintain that focus, maintain that, what's the word I'm looking for? Thinking of the word, maintain that like duration where you can stay tuned into something for a while. And then one other symptom that we kind of identified in these 7 traps is feeling psycho, where you feel anxious about everything, right? Where you're overwhelmed or like your emotions are running the show. Just one little thing will happen in your day and it'll just totally throw you off the rails. Your response or reaction to situations seems more intense than you would otherwise think is warranted. And this could be because of changes in progesterone, because progesterone has like a calming effect on what's called the GABA neurotransmitters in the brain. And again, nutrient deficiencies, things like magnesium and certain B vitamins can help improve our mood stability and our mood balance. So we're going to be talking a little bit more, but I just want to see like who can relate to 1, 2, maybe 6 of those different signs and symptoms. I see you shaking your head. Yes. Okay. So just know you're in the right place if you can relate to any of those things, because that's what we're talking about here. And the reality is, like I said, our bodies are changing. The hormone levels will decrease over time. So it's not to say that they're never going to change. We're not meant to be like we were in our 20s when we're in our 50s, right? But it's about how do we learn to navigate this more sensitive, this more finely tuned body, because it doesn't have the same buffer that those sex hormones used to be able to provide. It's kind of a blessing when we're younger and kind of running, around trying to do everything, be a parent, be, a provider, do all the things for our families, that we do have this buffer, this margin, this cushion with added sex hormones. Well, once they start to decline, that cushion, that margin has diminished. So that means our responsibility, our connection with and honoring and having reverence for our body's needs is heightened, right?
Yeah.
All right, Sharla, do you want to
share the screen? So what can we do about it, right? Like, let's go, right? Let's get into it. So we'll just we have
share.
Slides. Yeah, that way we've got
Okay.
notes. So one thing that I want to mention is a statistic that always blows my mind, right? So, and this is something that like just the average age of menopause, like menopause, true menopause, 365 days without your period, true menopause is between 45 and 52. But we can hit
Mhm.
perimenopause 7 to 10 years prior to that. So let's say you hit menopause at 45, you could hit perimenopause at 35. Now, I had my kids at 33 and 35. So it
Mhm.
blows my mind. And I have plenty of friends that had babies at 42, 43, right? You could be having babies and hitting perimenopause at the same flipping time, right? And what you think is postpartum depression might be perimenopause. And the doctors just go, here's some, right? So
Mhm.
educating yourself on, I had no idea. I had postpartum depression with both my kids, and no clue that I could have been in perimenopause at the same time. So the educating yourself on all of this is so important. Estrogen starts dropping in our 30s.
Mhm.
We're having babies and we're losing estrogen at the same time. Like it blows my mind. I go, oh my God, that's why so many things that I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So when we lose the estrogen, the estradiol, the testosterone, which testosterone is made in our ovaries, right?
Mhm.
You're born with all of your ovaries that you're going to have. You're actually in utero. You already have all the ovaries you're going to have for your life. We're just spitting them out. And then as we start, it's harder to spit them out. The best, like Dr. Mary Claire explained this the best way. It's like the little engine that could. All of our hormones are going, we're going to push out an egg. We're going to push out an egg. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, guys. And they're working really, really hard. And they spit out the egg and it just goes, right? And then they've got to start that cycle all over again. And the less viable these eggs get and the less of them there are, the harder that is. And the hormones are just like, it's crazy. And the cortisol levels go up. And this is when we get that visceral fat in our belly. As a trainer, I have women coming to me all the time going, can I just tone my tummy? And my answer has always been no. It's impossible to lose weight in just one area of your body and tone up just one area. We got to do everything except the visceral fat, because that's the fat around our organs. So if we want to lose the visceral fat, that's where I will say, yes, we can work on the tummy. But that comes from nutrition, not the
Mhm.
training, right? So that's the only exception. Why are we gaining weight, even if we're working out harder than ever? Because our bodies are changing. So what used to work does not work. I have many clients that, like me, their bodies have typically responded very well to cardio. I knew in college, if I felt a little bloated, I could go for a run and then I'd feel better and everything would be fine. And last year in January, I did this spin. I have a spin bike over here and I teach spin classes. I love it. And it's my jam. And I got music pumping, the lights are down, and I'm yelling at you in the microphone, and everybody's dripping sweat, and it's amazing. And I got on the spin bike every day for January. I did this challenge of so many miles and whatever. And I was on the spin bike every day in January of 2024, and I gained 4 pounds. And I was
Mhm.
sweating my tail off. And I went, that was really what started this, like, what is happening?
Whoa. Yeah, what's going on?
Because this has always worked for me before and it's not working now. And so the reason for that, and I'm going to get into it with the training, actually, with these next cardio zones, is we don't need to be in perimenopause in that heavy cardio state because it raises our cortisol levels. It makes our body think we're running from a bear when we're not actually running from a bear. We're just sitting on a spin bike or we're out for a jog for fun, right? But the number one thing that I see as a trainer, I live in San Diego, so we're outside a lot. We can work out outside a lot. And I will see people of all ages and all body shapes out for a run, and they look like they're in pain. Some of them are enjoying it and they're doing good, but some of them look like they're in pain and they're hating life. And I just want to roll down the window and go, it doesn't have to be this way. But that would
Mhm.
embarrass my kids because they don't know this person. So I feel like, and this, when people come to me as a trainer, they go, well, I needed to work out, so I tried running and it just, hurts. And I go, because I think the number one thing people try to do, and tell me if this resonates, if you don't know what to do, is you just think I should just run. Like it's the easiest. exercise thing. It's free. You can do it anytime, but it's not necessarily the best thing to do. I have another client who is training for marathons, and she's like, I am running so much and I can understand why I'm gaining weight because you're in perimenopause and you're not an Olympic, you don't have Olympic level trainers working with you to tell you, right? But like, because it's not really what's best for, if you love to run and she loves the marathons, okay, keep doing it, but we've got to make changes in other areas, right? So there are 3 cardio zones, and you can do this talk test. It's called a talk test. Zone 1, we're all in right now. That's our yoga, it's our somatic work, it's a leisurely walk, we're zone 1 cardio. And I'll talk very generally, and if you have a watch rate, a heart rate, that's your like maybe up to like 115 to 120 heart rate, zone 1. Zone 2 is we're getting the heart rate moving. We're starting to maybe perspire, sweat a little bit. We can say maybe 4 or 5 or 6 words and we're slightly out of breath, but we can hold a conversation and we can still keep going, right? This is the world we want to live in perimenopause and menopause. Zone 3 is that really heavy cardio where you're really pushing and you can't get out more than 2 to 3 words at a time, and you really can't. You're like, what was I saying? I can't. That you cannot sustain for very long, i.e., being on a spin bike right. We really don't want to do that more than once a week in perimenopause. So zone 2 is our friend. You can hit zone 2 doing leg day because they're our biggest muscles in our body, our glutes, our quads. When you're lifting heavy weights, on my next part of the slide, right? Muscle mass and weight, right? Muscle burns fat. Repeat that over and over. Muscle burns fat. The more muscle we have, the more fat we're going to burn. The more we increase our metabolism, the faster the metabolism works. When we're exercising, the blood is pumping the oxygen really to your brain so you don't die. Your brain needs oxygen in order to keep working. So that's why CPR, right? You're pushing the heart to get the blood to the brain. So in exercise, when you start getting out of breath, it's because your heart is pumping faster to carry the oxygen to your brain so you don't die, even though exercise is very good for you, right? But we want to build that muscle in order to increase the metabolism. And we do that, women, by lifting heavy weights. And women get very scared with this. And I used to as well. I used to cap myself. 10 pounds is all I need to lift. 10 pounds, that's all I need. I don't need to do any more than 10 pounds. I'm small framed. I don't need to do any more. Women think we're going to become these dudes. And let me tell you, these dudes are eating a very specific way and taking a lot of other stuff in order to do that. But the like fitness competition people wake up every 2 hours at night to eat protein. We're not doing that. Okay. So that's not going to happen to you, but lifting heavy weights, and heavy is relative for anyone. That could be 8 pounds. It could be 10 pounds. It could be 5 pounds. It could be 25. It could be 30. It could be, right? It's different for legs than it is for arms. So it's relative. But what I would say is this: if you can lift, there's something in training called the 1 rep max, where it's like you can only do 1 repetition of the weight and then you drop down a certain percentage from there and blah, blah, blah. But I say, if you're doing this on your own, give me 4. Lift something that's relatively heavy. You got 1, 2 starts to feel hard. 3 is really hard. 4, you can barely do. Okay, now drop down a few pounds from that and you're going to work your way up. Okay. Just the type of, I have types of training here, but just for the sake of time, the one that we want to live in the most, and it's the one I've fallen in love with in perimenopause, is what's called progressive overload training. And this is how we build the muscle. And there's research behind this. All of the research, the exercise physiology research that has been done up until very, very recently has been done on men. And the reason for that is because men have a 24-hour turnaround in their hormones, right? Men can, this is being recorded, men can have sex with someone and do their thing and make a baby, and tomorrow turn around and make another baby with someone else, and the next day turn around and make another baby with someone else. They can do this. They can make 30 babies in a month if they wanted to, right? Women have a 28-day cycle, right? So if you're an exercise scientist, if you're a scientist and you have funding and you're trying to get result, right? What are you gonna research? 24 hours or 28 days, right? So women were just
Yeah.
becoming small men, and we need to train very differently than men. So everything that we knew up until very recently is why women's did not like we they should have been researched, but women scientists are coming to the table going, let's figure this out. And one of the ways that we have found works the absolute best for building muscle mass, keeping our bone density, combating the weight gain, the visceral fat in the belly, and just helping us to live longer is progressive overload training. And what that means very generally is you're going to do one of two things. You're going to lift your weights and gradually increase your weights over a certain amount of time, or you're going to stick with the same weight and gradually increase the number of repetitions. You're going to go from 8 reps of this to 10 reps to 12 to 16. And then maybe you increase your weight and you go back to 8 reps and you go back, then you 10. Okay, so that's the magic. Somatic exercises are my new favorite thing. That's your yoga, dance. Those lower the cortisol levels. Okay, so we're looking at zone 2 cardio, lifting heavy weights and progressive overload, and lowering the cortisol levels with somatic exercises. HIIT training is on there. That's the once a week. That's the spin. That's high intensity interval training. That's your Tabata. That's your sprints. That's your spin class. That's your, something like Zumba, I would put under somatic. It's going to be pretty cardio-like, but I would put that under somatic because it's fun. You're dancing around, right? So if you're a Zumba like that or jazzercise, I have friends doing jazzercise, I would put that under somatic. Do you want to go to the next slide, Amanda?
Yeah.
So I called it MenoFit magic. So here's one of my favorite things. The number one, do anyone take a guess? The number one exercise that you can do. Can anyone take a guess? Maybe I've mentioned it, maybe I haven't. Hint, hint. If anyone wants to type in and take a guess, the number one, the best exercise that you can do for yourself in menopause, or even unmute yourself if anyone wants to say. I'll give you 3 seconds.
I'm doing a guess.
Amanda's doing a guess. Okay, Lisa says weightlifting. Amanda says squats. Walking.
Well, yes, that actually is true. I did know
Right?
that.
So,
I'm thinking of a specific thing, but you're right. Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, there was a recent study done, walking, just hiking, walking, lowers our all-cause mortality, all cause, by 28%, and lowers our risk of cardiovascular disease by 38%. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer in women. So if I could reduce the number one killer of me by 38%, I'm going to do it. It's walking. And so I've started on Facebook. Every once in a while, I'll do like a 14-day walking challenge where they're free and we just get together and we try to hit 8 to 10,000 steps a day. And if you were at a 3,500 step a day person, just increase it to 4,500. And it's free, and we get in community and we post and we share, and sometimes they give out prizes, and we just have fun in that group. One way that I've amplified it up is by adding a weighted vest. And the purpose of that is to burn more calories, but also it helps my core. I feel like I stand up straighter with the weighted vest, but it also increases our bone density. There's research behind this. I will wear my weighted vest around my house as I'm doing laundry and doing the dishes and taking care of my kids, and I'll just wear the weighted vest around my house. So that's one way you can do that too. I'm picking up an Amazon package and I got my vest, and right. And what you want to aim for in terms of the amount of weight, because that's a question I get asked, is 10% of your body weight. So if you're, 130 pounds, you're going to try to find, they don't do like 13 pound, but you can do like a 12-pound vest. Okay. How to know what works for strength training. I would say progressive overload is going to be your best bet. And I talked about the 4 rep kind of, thing. I'm trying to go through this real quick because I don't want to run out of time, but cycle syncing is another form of exercise where you link your exercises to your cycle. kind of just align them to the different phases of your cycles. You have your menstrual cycle, which is days 1 to 5, and you would keep your exercises light. For that, it'd be yoga. The follicular phase is days 6 to 14. This is where you're going to increase the intensity. Day 15 is 14, sorry, day 14 is your ovulation phase. That's your peak performance. Do your spin, do your sprints, do your hit. That's the day you're like, it's the day when you're like, I feel so good and I don't know why. That's your ovulation day, most likely. And then the luteal phase, 15 to 28, you're going to want to start lowering that. Now, if you're like me and your cycle is spreading out, what we do is we go off of the moon. Both of my babies were born during a full moon. Most women sync up to the moon, the phases of the moon. So new moon, zero moon, day 1, full moon, right, is later on in the, okay, so kind of that would be day 1. New moon, zero, nothing in the sky is your day 1. And then I've talked about somatic exercise, lowering our cortisol levels. That's how we get rid of the visceral fat. That's how we control our moods. That's how we get that dopamine. We feel better. Somatic breath work. I'm leading somatic exercise. I'm starting Saturday morning workouts, 7 a.m. Pacific time, the second and fourth Saturday of every month. It's like $10. You can do a $10 drop in anywhere. But one of the days I'm doing a lifting, and then the other one I'm doing a somatic exercise. So kind of alternate. And so, and I do my somatic. Amanda got to experience it in Chicago. It's the more
It was so fun.
movement, fun. And then we bring down and we breathe and we, end with a meditation and 45 minutes. And so I'll alternate, but that's just to help women understand kind of what to do, right? Because I can talk all day about progressive overload training, and until you've experienced it yourself, you're gonna walk into a gym and still go, I don't really know what to do. I get lost, and I was the same way. So there's that. Do I have
Yeah.
another slide? I think I had one on nutrition, but
You can do this one. Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, so Kegels, a lot of people, this was added because a lot of women go, I still pee every time I sneeze or brush my teeth or cough or laugh or something. So I have a freebie on YouTube that you have to have the link to get to. So there it is. And it's like 7 minutes of me telling you how to amplify the Kegels to make them work better for you. Simple
I
breathing.
love this.
Yeah, add into it. You can do it in your car or, standing in line at the grocery store. No one knows you're doing a Kegel, but it's different
Yeah.
ways to align your body to help it work better for you so that you don't, because again, loss of the hormones, our pelvic floor starts to weaken. So this is to strengthen it in perimenopause.
Yeah, I love it. That's so good because you're right. It's something that we could all benefit from, right, Sharla? Thank
Yeah.
you. I feel like these are great ideas and great resources. And thinking about, I totally am on board with you with the progressive overload. That's how I do strength training as well, and that's such a huge um, benefit in so many different ways, like metabolically speaking, from a bone health perspective, really keeping that visceral fat in control too. I wanted to kind of dive in here and talk, and you've been alluding to a lot of this, but when we were talking about some of those seven traps of menopause, those 7 symptoms and things that come up. One thing, this is really a roadmap that I use with all of my clients, predictable steps that can help you to have a game plan to really be in kind of in collaboration with your body, to understand your body in a more intimate way, and then to know what strategies are going to be most successful for you. And the first step is identifying the root cause of where your body is. Because so depending on what symptoms you have, what signals, I always say our hormones are like messenger molecules in the body. They quite literally can't talk words to us, but through symptoms, they're communicating to us all the time, giving us cues and clues about what dynamics to pay attention to, where we could use some more support, and what to lean into. So one of the things that I do want to share, I'll put a link in just a minute, is I have a free hormone health assessment. And this allows you to kind of take your symptoms and rank them in a different kind of organized fashion so that you can get a sense of where your top 6 metabolic hormones stand currently based on how your body is signaling to you. So identifying the root cause is first and foremost like where we want to start. And what a lot of women are starting to learn, what we now can appreciate in a more impactful way is our nervous system is a core central component to our overall health and vitality, period. It really is tied to this root cause. And Sharla alluded to it before when she's like, being in a spin class, your body thinks it's elevating cortisol levels because your body thinks you're in a fight or flight response. It's activating as if it needs to protect you or save your life, or you need to run and flee, right? And we don't have the same capacity to do that once we're reaching perimenopause and in menopause than we did when we were younger because of the change in hormones. So that means we get to be more adept at how we're signaling and switching that fight or flight response on, which is very useful and very helpful in certain circumstances. But most of the time, ideally, we want to be operating in a parasympathetic, that rest and digest and heal function of the body. The challenge for many of us is we've been so used to kind of operating in the fight or flight for months, maybe years, maybe even decades, that it becomes less familiar to know how to toggle and navigate back to that parasympathetic rest and digest place. But when it comes to our hormones, that's really, really important. That's hugely influential because I think this little visual is helpful to understand that, what I call the HPATG axis. The hypothalamus is that thermostat, that kind of gauge that's up in the brain, and it's surveilling and understanding what's happening in our world. We also have the pituitary that's really in charge of the endocrine tissue and the endocrine hormone signaling. But the hypothalamus is what is perceiving our environment through our five senses. So when you think about what you see, what you taste, what you touch, what you smell, what you feel, is coming in through the hypothalamus, through a filter, and it's what generates your thoughts, your beliefs, your perceptions, your expectations, your understanding of what's happening in your world, right? That then starts this cascade of signaling through this axis. So it signals to the pituitary how to respond. Is this something that is like an argument with your daughter, right? I literally just was talking to my daughter before. She was doing some stuff for college applications and she wanted my help. And I was like, I can help you, just not, now's not the time, right? So like a little friction point in conversation that can be perceived as a stressor, and that's going to signal to the pituitary. It's going to signal to the adrenals to release that cortisol or release epinephrine, adrenaline, and that will affect thyroid function, either slow it down or turn it up. And then eventually it signals to our ovaries and affects our sex hormones. The key here, though, is that life is this quote, life is about 10% what happens to you and about 90% how you react to it. Because what starts at the top is your interpretation, your thought of a situation or a circumstance. So where many of us have had the privilege and the margin of being able to, oh, I can kind of just do one more thing. I can put one more thing on my plate, or I can say yes to this, or I can, skip breakfast and just grab a coffee. Like those are all decisions that usually are driven by some underlying thought of either I don't have time, I don't want to do it, or somebody else needs me, or something else that is impacting our lifestyle choices. Now we don't have that same buffer. So we get to relearn new ways of showing up in the world, new ways of prioritizing our thoughts and what's really going to serve us, right? So here, and I'll put the link in the chat as well. Give me a second here to pull that up. If you want to take this hormone assessment, it's a chance for you to kind of gauge and see where your hormones are signaling to you now. So I would definitely let me pop that in the chat so you can see it. And just give me a thumbs up. Where is the chat? There we go. So you can see where your, like I said, those 6 metabolic hormones, when we're looking at thyroid hormone, we're looking at cortisol, we're looking at insulin, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, where your body is now as a starting point. So you can kind of gauge how do I get to lean into this? How do I get to support my body further? Really, when we talk about what is the root cause is dysregulation of our nervous system, or having a very low range of capacity, which means the smallest little thing will throw us into that fight or flight response. when we oftentimes have the best of intentions. Okay, I'm gonna start this new diet plan, or I'm gonna start this workout challenge. I'm gonna do something and I've got a really good intention, but then life happens, and I had to work late for a project. My team was up against a deadline, or situation happened with my son who was just really, had some trouble in school, and there was a lot of stress and a lot of overwhelm, whatever. When life happens, which it always will, then our nervous system becomes dysregulated quickly. Then we lose control. We tend to make different choices that are not as health promoting, not as consistent and stability. And then we feel bad and have shame and have guilt around this, right? So you can see that this starts to become this loop of hormone, mood, and also gut problems as well. So this is really, it's kind of seeing it and identifying, like, where do I get to give myself more intentionality so that I can start to support that nervous system. And disease happens in our cells. We were talking about at a cellular level. Your disease happens when our cells don't have the adequate vitamins or minerals or antioxidants and nutrients that they need to do their job, given the environment that we are asking our bodies to operate under. So if we're asking our bodies, kind of like Sharla was saying, like she was asking her body to get on the bike and do the spin class every day last year during the month of January. That's a high demand. Well, if we're not providing the fuel and the environment to succeed with that demand, it's no wonder that it's kind of like not putting gas in your car and expecting the car to go. It's just not going to work very effectively, right? So sometimes I think it's helpful to see just how many different pieces of the puzzle work together in order to create the hormones that we're talking about. Obviously, we know estrogen levels start to change. We know progesterone levels start to change, and even testosterone. But you can see what's upstream from those hormones in order to even be able to synthesize and have adequate levels of hormones. We need to have healthy cholesterol. It's important to have a strong thyroid hormone function, in addition to vitamin A and several different B vitamins, just to be able to make these downstream hormones, right? If we don't have what's at the top of the funnel, there's definitely no chance we're going to have enough of what's at the bottom of the funnel. And oftentimes women are surprised at the volume of nutrients that are needed in order to support these hormone levels in their body, right? So for example, this is a woman I worked with, Tamara, who on all accounts seemed to have a very healthy diet. She ate salads, she had smoothies most mornings. So she was quote unquote eating, she wasn't eating like a whole bunch of highly processed junk food. She's like, no, I eat really, really well. Great, that's awesome. That's a good starting point. And even with that, it may not be adequate to meet the demands that you are placing intentionally or unintentionally on your cells. And here's why, like, this was her micronutrient test. So this is one of the tools that we can get. And this is different from what typically your annual, doctor's appointment will provide. It's doing some functional work, but we can look at what's called a micronutrient test. So seeing at a cellular level what nutrients are actually making it inside the cell and have adequate amount for the cell to function at a high level. So this is Tamara, when she came to me again, she was somebody who was really struggling with a lot of hot flashes. She had headaches. She had a lot of aches and pains, joint ache and pain. Like, she was a runner. She's like, my knees are killing me. My hips are killing me. Like, I have so much achiness in my body. And of course, bloated, like weight gain that she wasn't loving anymore. So when we looked at her micronutrient status, again, there's three markers that are in green. Ideally, you want everything to be in the green, right? Then that's, your cells have what they need to function at a high level. She had three things that were in the green, but this is somebody who was eating, quote unquote, very, very healthy foods, and yet still was well away from what her body was actually saying it needed in order just to be able to do their job, the cells to work with, right? So a lot of antioxidants. And if we don't have adequate antioxidants, that's where we can get that chronic inflammation in the body that causes more of that achiness and problems. A lot of B vitamins that are really important. We talked about those B vitamins that are important to synthesize hormones, even just to have them available. Again, pretty much all suboptimal, and some key minerals as well. But you can start to get a sense of how important it is to nourish your body. And We don't keep an extra like pantry supply of vitamin A and vitamin E and vitamin D and B vitamins in our left butt cheek. Like we quite literally have to consume these from our foods every day. And so when we don't consume them regularly, then our cells don't have what they need to function well. So I'm all about like, okay, what's sustainable? What's going to help me have somewhat of a game plan? Now, obviously, this is not customized with my clients. We do much more customized work, but what's going to give me a way to start to think about as a general framework how to nourish my body so that my cells have what they need, right? We talked about first step is getting that root cause, understanding where your body is now, understanding where your hormones are signaling, where they could use some support. Next step is let's start to replenish the nutrient base. So your cells have what they need. They have fuel, they have gas in the tank, right? So they can work well. This is a super simple, I call it my PFFV, one hand meal plan framework. You can do this if you're at a restaurant, you can do this anywhere, and it's super simple. But think about protein. So you can see my palm size serving of protein here. And this is just like, again, looking at the palm of your hand at a minimum. Now, many of us actually can benefit from having even more than one palm size serving of protein. But I say as a benchmark, are you having at least one palm size serving of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Right? So that's step number one. The next step is fiber rich food. So these are things like, I love legumes. Beans are great sources of fiber, whole grains, some nuts and some seeds. This is where you can get your steel cut oatmeal. It's a good source of fiber, different things like that. So at a minimum, a scoop, like, right, take your little thing, and if you were to scoop it out, shovel it out, that size serving of fiber per meal, right? So if we're going breakfast, lunch, and dinner, having that fiber-rich content consistently. Now, healthy fats, omega-3 healthy fats, really good. They can be anti-inflammatory. Thinking about a thumb-size serving of those healthy fats. Again, multiple times, thumb size, you want to make, this can be like a drizzle of olive oil over a salad. It can be adding in, some people like to add in some, coconut oil into their smoothie or something like that. It can be cooking or adding some avocado slices on top of, a side dish with your dinner. Thinking about having that healthy omega-3 fatty acid consistently. And then vegetable. And I highlight vegetable. Fruits are great sources too, but I emphasize veggies because they have a lower glycemic load. And many times women I talk to don't have adequate amounts of vegetables, because when we have those antioxidants, there are a lot of great antioxidant components that are found in our plants and our foods. So a fist of veggies at a minimum 3 times a day. So this is like a great starting benchmark, right? Like I said, there may be some more customization if you want to look deeper at your micronutrient level and see what your cells need. But at a minimum, thinking about, am I fueling my body for success? Am I giving my cells what they need so that they can then meet the demand, especially if I have, kind of a history and a habit of running into that fight or flight response, that sympathetic flight or fight response. And remember, that can be you literally sitting at your desk, but an email came up at work with something that's frustrating or, a new problem or a new challenge. And just the thought, even if you're not physically moving, the thought of like, oh man, like when am I going to have time to get this done? I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. That right there triggers that fight or flight response in the body. So knowing how frequently, a good way to look at that is on a typical day, being honest with yourself. Again, no judgment. This is not about judgment. It's about creating clarity. But how many hours out of 24 hours in a typical day would you say you're experiencing some type of negative emotion? Something from just annoyance, irritation, frustration, impatience, anxiety, overwhelm, judgment, any type of negative emotion. If you're experiencing some type of negative emotion, your body is in a sympathetic fight or flight response, right? So versus a positive emotion of content, peacefulness, eagerness, joy, like love, that is when we're in that parasympathetic, list and digest. So it's just a good spot check to say, like, how often am I likely triggering that fight or flight? Because that's only going to increase the nutrient need for your cells, right? So I'd love to kind of just pause here. I know we're kind of coming up on the hour, and I want to make sure, were you ladies able to access that hormone assessment? Give me a thumbs up if you clicked on the link, if you got that. So you did. Okay, so that's a good, I would say start with that. That's a great starting point, because now you can kind of see like, okay, where am I at? Like, what is my body showing me areas? Is it something with insulin? Is it more thyroid function that I should be looking at? Is it going to be low testosterone? So maybe I want to think about how I can support testosterone levels and get more strength back, just like, like my client Sarah did. What is it that's going to be your area of focus? And then how are you nourishing your cells so that you're setting your nervous system up to have some bandwidth, to have some margin, to be able to navigate the demands? All right. So I'd love to have any questions. We can open up, Sharla, any questions from anyone that we can help answer today. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So great to see you. I think one of the things that can be super empowering is knowing that listen, a lot of these things are things that we maybe have heard or aware of, and the invitation is to become more intimately connected with our own bodies in the process. And oftentimes that's helpful to do with partnership, not either, Sharla in her group to like work with her, with myself, like I support women all the time. So like when you have somebody who's like that collaborator, that partner, that loving accountability, someone that can help you really elevate your health to the next level, the cool thing is amazing things are possible when you do take that step forward. And I always like to think about like our vitality is really up to us, right? I mean, these are just some examples of clients who not only felt dramatically different. I mean, my average client's symptom improvement, we do a symptom checklist at the beginning and then every couple of months to see the data, to see the progress, is a 72% symptom improvement in a matter of months. And they're like, I don't even remember that I used to feel that way. I used to have to take, I remember a woman, Beth was telling me, I used to have to take an aspirin and Tylenol every single day because I just had achiness and pains in my body. I can't even remember the last time I thought of doing that because I don't have that anymore. So the cool thing is your body can really change. Your bone density scan can change, just like, Beth, your digestion can change, so you don't have any more gut problems, any more bloating, leaky gut. Your blood levels can change, your cholesterol can change. These things are all influential. It's just a matter of having a game plan, having some support, having consistency around it so that you're really meeting your body's needs, and thinking about this as an invitation rather than a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much good info, Amanda. I'm gonna do the hormone assessment.
Yeah, yes, please do. I think it's
And
helpful to kind of get a sense of where you're at.
it's data. I've fallen in love with data. Like I'm a theater person, I'm a creative person. I was not in school like a but I've fallen in love with it. It's tracking, right? Tracking the amount of time I can walk with my weighted vest, tracking
Yes.
my steps, tracking the blood work and one symptom of perimenopause is LDL, the bad cholesterol tends to rise with no rhyme or reason.
Mhm.
And I noticed that in me. I was like, are you effing kidding me? I work out all the time. I eat pretty dang healthy. Why is my cholesterol like, what happened? And it's just a perimenopause thing. So it's balancing that. For me, it's the cortisol needs to come down in order to bring, then that cortisol goes up, cholesterol goes up.
Yep.
So it's all, yeah. That was another thing for me that I was like, why? And what I do is I research and then I go get a certification in it.
Well, but again, so you're doing exactly what we talked about, like become more intimately connected with the process, understand, and then start to have reverence for your body and like honor it, right? That's the opportunity.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes. Any other questions, ladies, before we wrap up here tonight that we can help support you?
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, absolutely. Great to connect with you, Jennifer.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. Nice to meet you.
Well, I think every time I think I've heard you before, and I get your emails, and I think each time, I take a little bit another piece like that I'm ready to handle, right? Like you keep on getting the same information and then taking it in a different way and embracing it, which is important.
I love that you said that, Jennifer, because I don't know what you are. Well, I think that's most humans, but I'm the same myself for sure. Like the repetition is so critical because we don't just hear something once and then it's like, okay, we're living it and that's our reality. It's like we get to hear it, we get to hear it, we get to also like play with it, practice it a little bit, try it, doesn't work, this way. Like it's reiterations, and the more and more you're engrossed in the conversation and the contemplation of it, that's when you're really making it real for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing
Yeah.
you said, taking one thing and doing it, right? So if we try to do everything at once, it's so overwhelming. And that's when people burn out, right?
Yes.
So one thing at a time, dial that in and then add something else. When this is now a habit, add a new habit, right? And then you've got these two habits and then add the next one. And this is how you create that long game for yourself. So that's super smart and really important. Good job with that.
Absolutely.
Work in progress.
Yeah,
Yes,
we all are.
we all are, totally.
So
Wonderful. Well, ladies, have a fabulous night and so great to connect with you. Please feel free to reach out if we can help in any way.
Yep. Thanks, guys.